easier for us to respond. If you see it, click it, and we'll take care of the rest.
Laws in place to help protect southern resident killer whales include a 1,000-yard protection zone. You're not allowed to be within 1,000 yards of a southern resident killer whale. There's also a 7-knot speed limit in place within 1,000 yards of a southern resident killer whale. If one pops up unexpectedly within 400 yards of your vessel, the law requires you to place your vessel in neutral and to wait until that animal is safely 400 yards or further away. We rely heavily on the public to contact us when they see violations occurring and to help ensure that the protection zones around these animals is maintained.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pierce County Council's Public Safety Committee meeting. The date is April 28th, and the time is 12:31. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, good afternoon. Councilmember Yombe.
Here.
Councilmember Hitchin. Here. Councilmember Morrell.
Excused.
Councilmember Denson.
Excused.
And Councilmember Herrera.
Here.
You have 3 members present.
And we have a quorum. Okay, so item number 3 is approval of the agenda. Any issues with the agenda that's presented today? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. So now we have item number 4, which is proposal number R2025-143 before us. Will the clerk please read the title into the record?
Proposal number R 2025-143, a resolution of the Pierce County Council confirming R.L. Soley as Director of the Department of Emergency Management.
Thank you. Ms. Long, can you brief the committee on this proposal?
Thank you, and good afternoon. So the proposal before you today would confirm the executive's appointment of R.L. Soley as the Director of the Department of Emergency Management. Section 3.30 of the Pierce County Charter provides that except for those positions filled by election, the executive shall appoint the chief officer of each executive department, and those appointments shall be subject to confirmation by a majority of the council. The Department of Emergency Management was created by ordinance of the council, and its functions and duties are codified in the code at section 206010E. The required qualifications for the director of the Department of Emergency Management are set forth in chapter 2.07. The general qualifications are in 010A, and those specific to emergency management are in subsection K, and those are outlined in my staff report for you, as well as in your materials in the packet. The council's rules of procedure provide the procedures for confirming the appointments of chief officers of executive departments, and it provides that every appointment by the executive of the chief officer of an executive department shall be in the form of a resolution and shall be reviewed by the appropriate standing committee. So today, emergency management is before the Public Safety Committee. The code further provides that the committee may require each applicant referred to it for consideration to complete a standard questionnaire to use to ascertain the appointee's general background and qualifications, and you'll see that in your materials, in addition to other supporting materials about the candidate before you. The code further provides that any hearing on an executive appointment shall be in a meeting open to the public. The executive's appointment of R.L. Soley is subject to confirmation by the council, and the final action is scheduled for May 6th for this confirmation. Unless you have any questions, I conclude my presentation.
Okay, thank you for that detailed brief on that. For the record, committee member Morrell and Denson are here, so they're here for the committee. And I think we have from the exec's office, Julie Murray, to maybe speak. Staff here if there's any other questions on that. But I know you're here, just letting you know that you're here. So, so I guess we'll start with a public hearing now, right? So before we get things going, I'm opening it up for a public hearing at this time, or she needs to come up and speak first? Okay, yeah, come on up and speak first, and then we'll do the public hearing. All right. Welcome.
Thank you so much. For the record, my name is R.L. Soley, and I am your acting Director of Pierce County Emergency Management. I'm honored to be here. I have spent the last 22 years in emergency management at the State Emergency Management Division at the Washington State Patrol, and now here in Pierce County. I am a lifelong learner. I pride myself in my ability to bring disparate groups together to solve problems, and I really enjoy bringing the calm in the chaos. And I have had the opportunity to work in many major disasters, and both in the state EOC and with local jurisdictions, working closely with the federal government as well. And so I feel that I'm well prepared to take on the role of Director of Pierce County Emergency Management and to really bring us into that 21st century emergency management. I bring a lot of established friendships and relationships into the position, which is essential as we are trying to manage emergencies together. And I am also committed to, within Pierce County, making sure that we have strong relationships and have already taken steps to ensure that I get to know all of my colleagues well in advance of any emergency, so that the first time that we're talking is not after the emergency happens. So with that, I open up for any questions. And
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Is there any questions from the committee? It looks like we got some right away here. So Committee Member Hitchin, we'll start with you, and then we'll go with Committee Member Morrell next. I have it on. I had it on.
Microphone.
There we go.
Okay. Thank you for being here, and congratulations, and hopefully everything goes through with our process. This is one of the steps. I think for me, you mentioned the relationships, and I'm just wondering, can you, within the bounds of what you can say publicly, talk through an example of how you've pulled like law enforcement or fire chiefs together in an emergency situation, like how you actually managed that and kind of kept everybody going in the same direction?
Sure. So COVID was probably a great example of that, and I could do the same with fire. I could do the same with OSO landslide, all events that I have worked on. But during COVID, what a unique time for us in emergency management, where we planned for a pandemic, but we weren't really sure if our plans were tangible, achievable. And so when COVID happened, we were in a unique position where we had to think ahead of the curve of the virus. And so I was part of an advanced planning team. That advanced planning team was a small group of selected leaders who were trying to outsmart the virus in a way, and to think ahead about what was going to happen and how are we going to put mitigation measures in place. So we could not do that in a vacuum. That required us to meet with fire, law enforcement, public health, public works, employment security, L&I. So we were really pulling everybody in to see what they were experiencing, what they were worried about, and then how that played into local government and tribal partners, and making sure that we had some advanced planning that was representative of everyone. So when we are talking about an emergency, that is a very difficult time to communicate, because everyone is dealing with the most urgent need right then, but we also have to think at that 50,000-foot view about how are we going to address this after that initial curve of that emergency occurs. So how I operate is to call early and often. And so I just picked up the phone and said, hey, this is the scope of work that we're doing, and I'd really love your input into it. We can't afford to create something in a vacuum, so we really need to get the participation at the local, the state, the federal level to be able to bring that together. So for fire and police specifically, fire was in a unique position where they immediately became a COVID testing site and had to pivot from their traditional duties to be able to set up these sites. So I was actually one of the first people to go through that a site in Seattle, drove all the way up there to do an early testing site to show everybody, law enforcement, fire, locals, that it's not bad, that they videoed me, they took still photos, just to show that I was happy to be one of the first people to get tested, just to show that it's okay, that we'll make it through it. On the police side, we had to deal with some really interesting issues regarding cordon. What happens if we have to maybe take a small neighborhood and put a perimeter around it? Fortunately, we didn't have to do that, but we had to go through the steps of what that would look like and where we would and would not have the ability to do that. And it doesn't just fall to the state, it falls to the locals as well. So really bringing in the local partners with the state partners and the federal partners to say, how could we do this? And then also local public health, local and state public health. We were in a role at the state level to support. And so in emergency management, we really don't direct anything. We are supporters. We are coordinators and assisters. And so by doing that in all of the planning efforts and all of the emergencies that I've been in, and then also in my day-to-day job, it really is listening to hear what those individual needs are, seeing how that builds into that collective goal, and then finding ways to make that happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and thank you for that question, and great answer, too. Committee Member Morrell.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Nice to meet you.
You as well, after all these emails.
Yeah, that's right. We'll get to that later. But, you know, everyone has their first 100 days.
Sure.
You hear it all the time with directors coming in. What is your first 100 days in Pierce County going to look like? Reader's Digest version.
You bet. First of all is relationships. So in emergency management, we have nothing if we don't have an established relationship. So even in my first 3 weeks, I've spent a lot of time out meeting with stakeholders, fire, law enforcement, public health, and the list is just growing and growing by the day. So I think that relationships and building that early is really important. I'd also say that reestablishing the culture that best fits how I am as a leader, which is a very inclusive culture and a very empowering culture. And so within the emergency management department, we have some amazing employees. And I'm so excited to make sure that they have a safe place in which to grow, in which to achieve everything that they're doing, and to know that they're going to be supported in their work. And then the last is we have some tough topics to cover over the next several months. And so my learning curve is steep, but I am already well on my way. And so I expect to take these 3 months and really focus on ensuring that I am a subject matter expert at the end of that 100 days on all of these hot topics that we have, so that I can best engage with the stakeholders and hopefully come to some really positive resolutions on it.
Okay. The other subject I just want to touch on, and you will become aware of this, is 911. Just the communication system they have, the radio system, trying to integrate everything into one system, and understanding that a lot of unincorporated Pierce County is very rural in nature, and trying to get everyone on the same page, plus the cost for that, because my folks up at Crystal Mountain, Green River, or Green Water Fire Department, all volunteer budget, is different than a Central Pierce or anyone within the urban areas. So making sure that you help navigate that and inform I think is crucial. So looking forward to see what comes out of that. As you know, Pierce County is geographically challenging. We have a valley that runs from Mount Rainier all the way down to Puget Sound. So one of the challenges that I've noticed since I've been a council member, a lot of the resources are down in the urban areas. But if there is a lahar, if there's a flooding event, the whole east side of Pierce County has no resource base, and it's survival of the fittest as far as setting up warehouses to have resources available to the communities. So I would like for you to take a look at what can be done there. And then also, with climate change being an issue, you're dealing with a lot more dynamics weather-wise, whether it be urban wildfires versus coastal flooding, and the complexity of the crystal ball on what's next. I think since I've been on the council for the last 6 years, we've dodged the proverbial bullet on a lot of issues other than the, Sumner grade fire that you talked about. But just making sure you cover all of Pierce County and not just, focused on where people have a lot of resources that you get out into the community. And I will just say this once, and you can do what you want with it, but the whole Carbon Canyon Corridor emergency plan that's been kicked around for 5 years now, we need to, now that the Fairfax Bridge is closed, that plan needs to come forward and acted upon. So I'll leave that up to you. But there again, the other thing that you do need to make sure is you're engaging with the Sheriff's Department because they're the law enforcement in unincorporated Pierce County. And so just make sure that you're reaching out to all and that you have the best laid plan out there. So thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chair. There's more comments than questions, but
And we are going out. I've asked to visit the Fairfax Bridge and that surrounding area, so I think we're going out the second week in May.
okay.
Looking forward to that.
We'll have more discussions.
Perfect.
But I appreciate the emails and
You bet.
the back and forth. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Chair.
Thank you for those comments. We'll move to Committee Member Denson.
Thank you, Chair Herrera. Well, we're so excited to learn more about you, and as this process works through, I know that there are a lot of hot topics, and myself and I know my colleagues are really excited for you to come on board and take a new, fresh look at some of the challenges that we've had, that our first responder partners have had, and we're really looking forward to somebody that's going to come in and work with the professionals that work all over the county to come up with solutions that work for everyone. One of the hot topics is the radio system, and I know that you and I have already had discussions, and you've already been reaching out to some of our first responder agencies to look at innovative, new, forward-thinking ways that are also affordable for our first responder agencies. So that's really important. And I was extremely impressed with your depth of understanding and knowledge of communication systems, and feel very, very confident that you're going to help us all work together collaboratively in a way that's good for everybody to best keep our communities safe. My question is, we have amazing professionals at DEM, here at the county, at the state. We've got FEMA Region 10, just up north a couple hours. We've got great first responding agencies that really know their job. But if we get a big event, which will happen eventually with Cascadia or wildfires or a Lahar flow that impacts and cuts off communities, we know this is going to happen. I'll just use Cascadia as an example. We know that in particular our rural communities are going to be really cut out, and even a lot of our suburban communities as well. So do you have any ideas about how we can help our residents prepare, really understand the need to be prepared, that they're going to be on their own for a couple weeks, maybe even a month, CERT or organizing groups or neighborhood groups? What are your thoughts around that?
Sure. So CERT, the Community Emergency Response Teams, an amazing opportunity. Same with Map Your Neighborhood or PCNet. All of these are amazing resources that are available through Pierce County and also through our partner agencies. So, of course, being able to take care of ourselves so we can take care of each other. And there will never be enough first responders to be able to address every need in not even a catastrophic event, but even just a major event. The response time will be challenging. And so really even being able to teach people how to turn off their gas, how to turn off their water, and not just those who are the ones who traditionally do that, but teach the kids how to do that. And so Pierce County has an amazing outreach program, some very talented and passionate practitioners who go and spend a lot of time, a lot of their weekends out in the community teaching. So of course, that is available to us always. I'm also looking at that program to see where are there needs that aren't being met because of the resources we have, and maybe where are we doing things that we could maximize in different ways so that we free up more space to do those things that really do move the needle for us. So I really look forward to that discussion with the team because they are so passionate about what they do, and really hearing from them as they're closest to the work about how we can really make a measurable difference with especially personal preparedness, recognizing that it might be a while before responders are there. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Great. Any other questions from the committee? Not seeing any, but so thanks for coming to Pierce County. Again, we have a lot of counties in the state of Washington. This is a unique county when it comes to emergency management, for sure, and quite dynamic. And I really appreciate the questions from my colleagues talking about, having assets in strategic places just in case. But my question for you is, working at the state and having that 100,000-foot view, you're kind of like we're either on general staff or you were the general. How is that going to benefit Pierce County as you come down to the 50,000-foot level, the more grassroots level? How is that going to help us? You've seen the whole state, but now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty to a pretty complex county.
So fortunately, I've worked with Pierce County for all 22 years. So all the way back, 4 directors before me, I worked very closely, and in fact, some of the staff are still there. So it was a little bit of a coming home in a way, because there are several staff who knew me from the very beginning when we were setting up the state Homeland Security program at the military department all the way to today. And those relationships do not end just because I had a state hat on and now I have a local hat on. In fact, I think that's just a force multiplier for me. I think where I have the most opportunity is now having had the liaison time with the federal government, the time in state government, and then now local government, is the ability to take all of the information that I have learned about what works, what doesn't work, where do we have the ability to change things, and where are we just required to take care of ourselves and make sure that we're doing what we can for our residents. So I look at this next step as almost the culmination of my career, because in every position I have been in, it has been to support locals, as all emergencies and disasters are local. So even at the state level, everything I was doing was in support of those who are at the local level. And when something was happening, I was on the other end of the phone as the state, but I was there to assist the locals. So I feel I'm in a unique position to really be able to see all of that and be able to be able to have all of the pieces on the chessboard. And I think that is going to help us in Pierce County, being such a complex county with so many unique hazards, that there's I think I know almost everybody, which means that's one phone call away to be able to say, hey, we're facing this issue in Pierce County. What do you have that can help us? And in a disaster, that's going to be so important, but it's also so important when we're planning, because if there are resources out there that we can leverage now in the planning process, and they're available to us during planning, then likely we're going to have those relationships established when that Cascadia hits.
Well, that's good that you already have an established bat phone.
Yes, it used to be red, it's blue now.
Okay, great, awesome. Well, I don't see any other questions, so we appreciate you coming before the Public Safety Committee today, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so this is a public hearing now. At this time, I'd like to invite members of the public to provide comment on proposal number R2025-143. Please state your name if you'd like it on the record, and keep your remarks down to 3 minutes, and direct all comments to the chair. And we'll start here in chambers if the exec office wants to talk or anything, or anybody in chambers. No? Okay. Seeing nobody in chambers, we'll move to the Zoom room.
Yes, Mr. Chair. For any members of the public who wish to provide comments on proposal number R 2025-143, press the raise hand icon of Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And I see no hands, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. No chance. I'd like to close the public hearing and open this up for any final comments from the committee. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to Vice Chair Denson for a motion to possibly move this forward.
We'll see here. I don't know. Thank you, Chair. It is my pleasure to move proposal number R 2023-143 to be forwarded to the full council with a do pass recommendation.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to be forwarded to the full council with the do pass recommendation for motion R 2025-143. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes have it. So we'll move it forward. All right. Okay, moving forward, we have item number 5, and we'll have Miss Kelly for introduction. We got the Fire Chiefs Association here, right?
Correct. Thank you. For the record, Andrea Kelly, council staff. Today we have representation from the Pierce County Fire Chiefs Association to discuss a number of topics. In person, we have Chief Dennis Doan from Gig Harbor Fire Medic 1, Chief Jim Sharp from West Pierce Fire and Rescue, and Chief Dustin Morrow from Central Pierce Fire and Rescue. In the Zoom room, we have Chief Matt Medford from Pierce County Fire District number 23. Today's presentation topics will include an overview of the fire benefits charge, which has been allowable in Washington since 2003 and has been voted on and implemented by Valley Regional Fire Authority, Central Pierce Fire and Rescue, Ording Valley Fire, Graham Fire and Rescue, and West Pierce Fire and Rescue, most recently implemented in 2025. Additional topics are fire district mergers, which was included in the April 22nd special election ballot, and voters elected whether Graham and Ording Fire and Rescue would merge with Central Pierce Fire and Rescue. Also discussing Pierce County Fire and Pierce County government, the venues in which the two entities overlap and coordinate with each other, specifically regarding radio systems, as you've heard up until now, Emergency Medical Services Office in the Department of Emergency Management, the Fire Marshal's Office in Planning and Public Works, and perhaps learning about how these entities work together or are needed in support of each other for efficient government systems and services to the public. So we have a panel set up.
All right, come on up. It's good to have you guys here today. We have some titans of public safety here today.
That's a stretch.
Hey now, yes. There you go. You just move the
game where I had the ball there.
There you go. Well, we appreciate you coming here today. And you guys can each have a mic there today. So, it's great to have you here today. And I guess you can start off with Dennis here and just shoot.
I'll let Chief Sharp start.
Okay.
But thank you, sir.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having us. Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity. And our president this year for our association is Chief John Parkinson from East Pierce, and he accepted this meeting and then promptly said, "I won't be there." So that's why you don't see our president here today. But he's on vacation this week. But I think we'll be able to handle it without him. I'm just going to start because just based on the list of topics, we kind of broke it out into some different speakers here. And the fire benefit charge was one that was mentioned, and West Pierce is the most recent fire department to go to the fire benefit charge here in our county. And I think that came to this council at different times with some different information, and so I thought it'd be good to speak on that and how that came to be and where we've been. I know when people see a change in their taxes from the fire district, they're like, well, it's a Pierce County fire district. They see Pierce County in the name, so then they want to go to the council, and the council's like, well, that's not us. We're not sure. You need to talk to somebody else. Then they go to the assessor, and by the time they come to us, they're so frustrated. They feel like they've been bounced around so much. I do want to say before I get into it, I really appreciate everything that was done by the Assessor Treasurer's Office and this council, though. so to really get people steered in the right direction and help them understand what was going on. It was very helpful for us during a time when we were doing something incredibly challenging that was new to us and a lot of work. So I can't say enough about the folks that worked down at the Assessor Treasurer's office, and the work that they did was kudos to them. So a fire benefit charge is a alternative funding mechanism that is provided to fire districts to use as an opportunity. I believe Central Pierce was the first fire department to use it in Pierce County. It's become much more widely used across the state. I think we found about 15 or so fire departments across the state that were using it when we did our research most recently. And when I say that, though, they're regional fire departments, much like West Pierce, where we represent 3 different communities. These fire departments all represented multiple different communities or fire districts. So in total, there was about 30, 35 different cities or fire districts across the state that are utilizing a fire benefit charge now. So it's becoming a much more common tool. And for West Pierce Fire and Rescue, historically, for some 50-odd years, we've used three taxing measures. We've used our regular fire levy, which is based on assessed value. We use our EMS levy, which is based on assessed value. And we use an operations levy, which is based on assessed value. So everything we have done has been based on assessed value. What the fire benefit charge does, though, it doesn't look at assessed value. It strictly tries to focus on fire risk. And so there's 3 core things that we measure to calculate. It's a fairly extensive formula, but when you break it all down, that formula is based on 3 things, which is the size of the structure, the use of that structure, and what are the fire risks inherent in the use of that structure. So size, risk, and use are the 3 core functions. You'll notice assessed value is not in there because fires don't really care what the value of the property is. They're more responding to the size and the risk, and that drives what we need to provide as a fire protection district to provide for fire protection appropriately. So if you implement a fire benefit charge, there's a new formula calculated across all parcels, and it only applies to structures, so vacant land does not get taxed, whereas vacant land under an assessed value model does get taxed. And so there's no fire, generally speaking, there's not a lot of fire risk there in vacant land, but certainly there can be some. With that said, once you adopt the fire benefit charge, it now works with the underlying taxes that we already have. So we still have a regular fire levy, but it's reduced where it used to be. Statutorily, it can be $1.50 per thousand. It's only $1 per thousand if you use a fire benefit charge. So it's reduced. The EMS levy stays unchanged, but then our operations levy goes away. So now what we have is we really have a taxing model that's a hybrid of 2 different things. It looks, a portion of it looks at what is the assessed value of the property, and that covers all properties, including vacant land. And then the other portion looks at that size, risk, and use. And so it's sort of the best of both worlds, if you will. It kind of blends 2 different taxing measures. We thought that was a lot better for us because there's more benefit. It can run for 6 years, where our operations levy was only 4, and 4 years in the fire service is just, it goes so fast. It's not really good. Not a very good length of time to be able to do long-range planning. And so 6 years is actually the shortest you can do a fire benefit charge. You could do them for 10 years. You could do them permanently if that's what you choose. Those would take renewals, obviously, and new votes. But we went with a 6-year fire benefit charge, and it passed overwhelmingly. Where some of the challenges arise is after it was implemented. A lot of people, as much information as we got out there, flyers and newsletters and public hearings and meetings. We got on, the local newscasts. We were in the newspaper. Where every medium that can be out there, there's still people that aren't going to know about it. And so all of a sudden they get this information. Their taxes are changing. What is this all about? So there's a lot of questions like that came about. And again, some of those made it back to the council or made it to the Assessor Treasurer's office trying to get clarification. And then, of course, anytime you change how you tax, what the measurements are, we didn't ask for any new money, I should say. It's the same amount of money, but when you changed how it's calculated, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. Everybody who sees a reduction because of the fire benefit charge, someone has to see an increase to keep those numbers in balance and come away with the same amount of money at the end of the day. So we didn't hear really from anyone who saw reductions. But we did hear from people who saw increases. And so, of course, that was, again, another group of people that came forward and were a little frustrated, or maybe they didn't know about this change. Or maybe it was in the commercial arena where they're not local. They don't live in the community. They're an out of the area or out of state property owner. And so they find out about it much later in the process when they start to see their tax statements. So, so the first part of it was kind of getting it implemented and going through the education process to get it implemented, and again, it passed overwhelmingly in the community. And then sort of the second phase has been this recently, when tax statements start to come out and people start to be able to apply what's the actual impact of this. So there's no way to tell each individual property owner exactly how it's going to trend or what's going to happen to them. You can give them some generalities of what to expect, but when it doesn't meet those expectations, of course, people have a lot of questions. So there were a lot of questions, but overwhelmingly, I think for our community, it makes a lot of sense. It gives us a long-range planning tool, and it establishes a more stable funding mechanism for us. And again, it's not just based on assessed value. That's one of the things we found was a bit of a struggle was we started to look at historical trends, and there was a lot of commercial properties. They don't get evaluated quite as often, or sometimes they don't change until the property is sold, and then they reevaluate based on the new use or the new value of that property based on its income producing potential. There was a lot of commercial property we saw that hadn't seen an AV change in like 5 years. Yet it wasn't uncommon for a residential homeowner to see double-digit increases to their assessed value. So the assessed value tool by itself really created some imbalances in who was paying and how much they're paying, and more importantly, how much they might have to pay year over year as those things changed kind of rapidly in our sort of fluctuating real estate market. So with that, we're very happy that we've moved to it. I think it's going to be a great tool for us. I would expect that you'll hear more about it in the future with other fire districts who need supplemental funding. It just makes a lot of sense, and that's why you see more and more fire districts going to that across the state. As was stated, Central Pierce has it, which now includes the Graham and Eatonvilles of the world and ourselves. And so in Pierce County, very generally speaking, about a third of the county geographically, population, and probably parcel-wise is covered by a fire benefit charge now. So it's a fairly large portion of the county now that utilizes this taxing method. So it'll become more, I think, more familiar to people as it goes by. But for 50 years, they only knew one way in West Pierce. They only understood one taxing methodology, and now we're evolving into something new, and that takes time and education. So that's sort of the history behind that, and happy to answer any quick questions on that.
Sure. There's lights going off like a Christmas tree. So we'll start off with committee member Morrell. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate you Titans showing up, as Chair indicated, but I know that when the fire benefit charge first came on, I think there again Central Pierce pioneered it. I don't think we were first in the state, but we were close, learning everything we'd learned from Tualatin. But as a fire commissioner on the total merger of Central Pierce, the fire benefit charge was the toughest one to deal with because we had a very educated commercial group that heard about, I think, BMO, whatever, Building Management Association. They just came unglued when they figured out what we were attempting to do with the fire benefit charge, because and I get the aspect of it. Commercial property take a certain apparatus to, you got to have more than an engine to do that. You got to have a ladder truck. You got to have more training. But there again, did you in your education really reach out, and that includes multifamily apartments, other things that you have in your district? Our biggest pushback was the warehouses because they were a lot of square footage there. So, in looking back, are you really reaching out to those groups and trying to educate them? Because one of the things that we saw, when we were selling the fire benefit charge, was insurance rates were going to go down. I think we were going to take them, some of our district was level 5, and we were going to take them down to a 4. That meant they were going to get X amount savings on their insurance. That's kind of how we sold it. And I'm not too sure historically if all that worked out. I left soon after, but that's one of the things that we looked at. So have you jumped into that, Chief, at all?
No, that's a great question, and actually it was a great learning point for us. Is we have a very good relationship with our community, and we get out and we realize, gosh, we do a great job with the homeowners. We know how to connect with the homeowners, and we've got a lot of historical ways that we've done that really well. And what we learned very quickly is we don't have a good tool for really connecting well with our commercial base, especially when you talk about a lot of the warehousing and the larger facilities, because most of those are not owned, even the large apartment complex are not owned by a local business owner. We can go to the chamber meetings and meet with the chamber and meet with some of the local business owners, but many of the business owners might lease space within a larger strip mall where the building itself is actually owned by someone either out of the area or out of the state. And so that is an area that we're actively trying to figure out how can we improve on this? How can we do a better job? Because we realized really quickly that we weren't messaging as well to them as we could have or should have. But it is very challenging. I know one of the groups that we've worked with quite a bit after the implementation is a company that owns a lot of warehouses in the city of Lakewood. And yet they're based out of Issaquah, and they own real estate all through the South Puget Sound region. Some in in Citrus Pierce, some in Issaquah, Renton, all these other areas that already have fire benefit charges, and we were one that didn't. So, but again, not a company that we know or work directly with. We work with some of the local businesses that are in that facility, but the buildings and themselves are owned by someone out of state. They're the parcel owner. They receive the tax information, and then they pass it on to the lessees, and we find out very, very late that now the lessees are going to see some increases. So it's complicated. Excuse me, it's complex, and we're trying to sort that out. And it's a great point, and it's one that we admittedly did not do as well as we could have. And we've learned a lot in this process, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Committee Member Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chief. I know that I sent several constituents to the wonderful website as you were trying to adopt that, to try and answer questions. Just for the committee and the public that maybe they're not members, how is it assessed if it's not based on square footage or on assessed value? Like, what's the number? I'm assuming is it based on fire risk?
Yes, there's multiple factors. Basically, it's at its core, it's size, risk, and use. So I like the example and analogy I would give in public meetings is kind of like that game Plinko with Bob Barker on Price is Right. It goes through a matrices that says, your house is 1,500 square feet, so that's this, and it's a residential structure, that's this, and because it's residential, it's got a fire risk of this, and so then it comes down here with a calculation versus, you're a commercial building that's 10,000 square feet, you're over here, and you're a bomb manufacturer, that's high risk, and it's over. So you kind of wind your way through.
Love to see the assessment on the bomb manufacturer.
So it's based on that size, the use, and then the fire risk, which is established by NFPA fire codes and stuff. So each parcel is or each building, I shouldn't say not each parcel, each building is individually coded based on those size, use, and risk factors, and then comes out with a final assessment. We get all of the size and use information from the Pierce County assessor, so they provide us with a large data dump. It's run through the formula, and then we send it back to them to collect on our behalf.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Great questions. Any other questions from the committee? Well, I had one. There's a lot of information you put out. You talked about what the fire risk is. That was one of my questions. But I wanted to go back to the fire benefit charge. You talked about it doesn't fully replace the reduction of the fire EMS tax at all. at all? I just wanted to be clear of that so people will know.
So
is.
a fire district is, by statute, is allowed up to $1.50 on their regular fire levy. They are allowed up to 50 cents on an EMS levy. And then voter approved, you can do also a supplemental levy. We called ours our maintenance and operation levy, but it's a supplemental levy that we can, voter approved levy. If you do a voter approved fire benefit charge, you cannot have a voter approved supplemental levy, so that goes away. It's only for fire, so it doesn't address EMS, so EMS is untouched. It stays 50 cents. And your fire levy, that's the baseline levy of $1.50, that cannot be any higher than $1. So our fire levy was reduced immediately to $1 as soon as this was implemented. And I think at that time our rate was about $1.44 or something like that. So it went down to $1. So, and that's one thing that was, really important in the educational piece. It's not as simple as just saying, oh, well, you have an excess levy that's this much, and so you're going to have it, fire benefit charge is this much. It's like, well, no, fire benefit charge has to cover the excess levy, plus it has to cover the loss of this 50 cents on our fire levy. So it's a little bit of, it looks like apples and oranges, but at the end of the day, the amount of money that we were seeking to collect was the same amount of funds as we had done previously.
Another question is kind of going back on the fire risk. Is like you have the same exact house that is in a city that's by a fire hydrant. Would their fire benefit charge be less than someone with the same exact house out in unincorporated Pierce County surrounded by trees with no fire hydrants?
No, there's a lot of little nuances. We had a lot of people bring those kind of things forward. Well, can I get credit for this or credit for that? I live next to a hydrant, or I don't. My house is brick and their house is wood, whatever, right? So it doesn't get quite that granular. So it's pretty basic in the way it looks at it, and uses National Fire Protection Association codes and evaluates things in building codes. And so a home of 1,500 square feet located next to a fire hydrant, and a home 1,500 square feet up a long driveway, same. They're the same charge under a fire benefit charge. It's just looking at the size and the use, and the size is the same and the use is the same as they're both residential structures.
Okay. Oh, and we got someone on the far end over there. We got Councilmember Krueger, guest. She's a guest here today. She came in a little bit earlier, and she has a question. And I just want to remind myself and the committee, we have a hard stop at 14:59 or 2:15 today. So, okay.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate the time. I'm just curious because when I look at like in the building and everything, we have codes that you have to be fire rated, you have to have certain roofing, you have to meet certain points. And then when I look at, then you got to have sprinklers, and there are all these things that kind of work to put you out of work. And I would think that maybe those kind of effects might help reduce the ratings. And also, like for those who do live out in the middle of nowhere where you really can't do much but maybe save the foundation. And I would think that rates could go down in areas like that. Are those factored in? And most of the calls nowadays, I believe, are emergency versus fire, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I didn't mention it, but that is the one reduction in the formula at the end of the formula after it calculates everything. If you have a working sprinkler system, it's a 10% reduction. So there is a reduction for sprinkler systems.
What about when you have emergency, like we have the detectors that call emergency? Is that's not not comparable to the
as part of the reduction? Only the sprinkler systems.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for the question. We're going to move on to another one. I think mergers. Are we talking about mergers next?
Thank you.
Chief Morrow.
Yeah, thank you, committee member. My name is Dustin Morrow. I am the Fire Chief, Central Pierce, Oregon, Graham. And just before I start, what was it, Titans?
Titans.
The Titans would like to compliment you on your choice of RL. So it was very interesting having her speak to her relationship building and networking, and just, she did not pay us to say this, by the way, but she is already doing a fantastic job of hitting the street, understanding the issues, building those relationships that she spoke of. So know everything that she just said is on spot. $20 later, maybe. In all seriousness, thank you for giving me the opportunity. So for about the last 36 months, Central Pierce, Ording, and Graham, actually that's not a fair statement, about the last 3 decades, those 3 organizations have been in a conversation around how to work better together. And through the direction of the 15 elected commissioners, they made the choice about 16 months ago to say, hey man, it's finally time to do this for real, and we're going to take the steps to do it. They've been meeting jointly actually for about those same 16 months. So every 2 weeks, I'm blessed to have 15 commissioners to work with. And yes, last Tuesday, April 22nd, resounding yes. The Graham community voted 87% and the Ording community voted 84% in favor of the merger. You might be asking, why are we doing this? There is a rich history in this county of, not unlike other counties or other states, of putting fire districts together. In this particular case, these 3 organizations, to be candid with you, just the simple fact of growth and development has woven these 3 organizations together. It's almost impossible, honestly, to deliver service, especially on the edges, without really sharing the resources. So a lot of it's through growth and development. The second piece is, and this is not I'll look to this pair because you've only been here about the same time as me, the situation, the umbrella that we work under in this county, an automatic aid or mutual aid agreement. Dennis knows this very well. There's 46 addendum to this agreement. It's a legacy document, and honestly, we have just outpaced that. The days of which we were supposed to be, calling each other, can you help me, and we'll help back, are just gone. So we've outlived kind of the current state of the automatic aid, mutual aid agreement. We are working to refresh some of those things in this county. I don't think I need to tell you, but incidents, emergencies, they don't pay attention to any geopolitical boundary at all. We don't give our community members the ability to look in the phone book and figure out who's the closest person to call. So all these things got factored into it. And then the last piece for us really is just that it doesn't matter if it's Central Pierce, Ording, or Graham. All of us are growing. Service demand is increasing. There is more structures being placed that fit under the description that Chief Sharp said, and we just can't do it by ourselves, to be honest with you. And more specifically, it's irresponsible to do it by ourselves. There's just a tremendous amount of duplication in the system. Just think about, we're all maintaining a reserve fleet of apparatus when we could be sharing a reserve fleet. So there was just some very conscious decision making from the policymakers that said, hey, now's the time to do it. Fortunately, right set of commissioners, right labor groups, right fire chiefs. I want to give huge credit here to Chief Zane Gibson and Chief Oscar Espinosa. Those 2 individuals did a lot to get this moving in this county before I was even here. And then, of course, the community itself really came to the table and supported our efforts. So between now and January, we're going to be in a very, very busy state, actually working through what the implementation plan is. But everything that we see already is proving out to be worth all the effort that we've put forward. So we're excited to be doing that, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that process if you have them.
Okay, any questions from the committee? We've got committee member Denson. She got a question.
Yes, well, thank you, Chief Morrow, for your leadership, and I hear only good things. I'm curious, because I hear only good things.
Sure.
Some of the smaller communities, the more rural communities, I know they're very proud of their fire departments. Clearly you didn't have a lot of issues with community backlash or people wanting to just hold into their fire department? Or if you did, how did you address it? How did you talk to people and make sure they knew that this was still their fire department?
Great question, and actually it's just the opposite.
Okay.
Absolutely. So communities love their fire departments, love their fire departments. And I think it's one thing where identity and culture is just like strong.
Yeah.
So I will share with you, it isn't unlike I think a lot of things that we do in the emergency services. You just have to have complete transparency. And the fact is, I want to have the pride and identity and logo of Central Pierce, and they want to have it of Graham, and they want to have it of Ording. But everybody, when you start talking to them about, let's be really honest about what's going on. How many times do you see a Central Pierce unit servicing Ording? How many times do you see Ording servicing Graham? So when you put all the facts on the table and you put some logic on the table and you are very respectful about making sure that you're going to carry through that identity, that ownership, that culture that was part of the original, fire service entity, people are willing to offer you some trust, and they're willing to offer you some grace, and now we're just in that phase where we better follow through on what we're saying. So it might seem funny, But like, I'd encourage you to go look at Ording Valley's most recent apparatus purchase. Ording Valley is like very, very proud of their gray top rigs and a certain logo design. And in a compromise, thinking forward that this could occur, right, their rigs now are their color of red with their decals, their logos, but a black top. So that should it have to be, changed out as we move forward in standardization, that they are contributing in a more cost-effective way. So to answer specifically, it's about being transparent and honest and recognizing that identity, that culture, right, that love that needs to carry on in the system. And we were just real honest about it in all three organizations.
That's great, because a lot of these communities, the fire departments either still are volunteer or aren't that far away. And so they really have such an intense sense of ownership, and they've been supporting these districts. They love their fire districts. So that's great. That's a good lesson learned. My second question, I've just been curious. You said you've got 15 commissioners you're working with 3. Eventually, will it stay that way, or eventually you'll consolidate that somehow?
Yeah, so RCW 52 is what governs fire districts. It's an old piece of legislation. I have to just tell you that. But the 15 commissioners are required within 3 election cycles to go back down to 5, unless they choose to go out now to the broad community, the full 178 square miles. They would have to ask the question of that constituent group to go to 7. So they have they right now they have until 2031 to stuff all 15 into 5, or that same time period to go to the community and expand to 7 and stuff the 15 into 7. That's how it works.
Okay, thank you.
Great question.
Great questions. Okay, Committee Member Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the questions.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the questions of my colleagues on this matter, because this is one that I fought real hard for and actually chaired the commission when we ended up forming Central Piers with South Hill, Midland, Spanaway, Summit area, and Graham. And to be able to bring all those commissioners together was challenging because everyone loves their power position.
Sure.
And, we were viewed as, territorial, taking over, figure whatever you want to say. But, I think there again, identity and culture is very important. Of course, when you talk about engines, we wanted nothing to do with Riverside because they had the blue engine. So we're not taking Riverside. But just the leadership that I learned in navigating that with the chiefs, with labor. I mean, that was huge, getting labor to agree to this. But I think there again, as the requirements are put on fire districts for training, the level of equipment you have to respond with, the amount of time that you have to respond is very critical. And I think the only way you're going to continue to do that is if you can amass the labor, the equipment, the expertise, the knowledge to push it forward. I always wondered what would happen if school districts did this, but I don't want to go there. You talk about identity, school districts, but it's the same concept. And I appreciate now that I can sit back and watch the different districts that are now joining with, whether it be East Piers, West Piers, or Central Piers, and remembering the negative comments that were given to us as a board when we move forward with this, and thinking that, this is probably going to be the future, so we need to get on board. But, you know, I never envisioned, you know, how the mergers and consolidations have taken place, especially in East Pierce County. And I applaud the leadership for their vision, willing to step back a little bit and put forward, because I think one of the critical things that we said in moving this, they don't, you know, the public doesn't care as long as an apparatus rolls up, whether it be ALS or an engine, they're not reading who it's from, and they just want professional services. And so that was a concept we continually had to pound home to the commissioners at that time. And, you know, there again, it worked. And here we are today. By the way, I like the new engine scheme, paint schemes. Very personalized. So I think that's a great move. Yeah. So with that, I just want to say, you know, thank you for taking that challenge and making it work. And I think there again, this is kind of the future of way things are going to go. And to my colleagues, yeah, the challenge is, you know, volunteer fire districts are far and few between anymore. And then again, how does, if you do, because you have to spread the cost equally across the whole district, you know, and how do you do that to, you know, a Riverside or a, you know, South Pierce Fire and Rescue. So anyway, thank you for what you do, and it was nice to read the election results.
Thank you.
It was a resounding yes. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you for those comments. And we have guest Councilmember Kruger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm interested on how this may change dynamics locally, because I could just call up Chief Espinoza and have a discussion, and he kind of knows what's going on, or with Chief Medford, and I'm like, how will these changes be affected?
In my eyes, zero. I think I actually sent you a text the other day, and we went back and forth, and now you said, hey, I have your number, perfect. So I don't want it to change anything, honestly. The reality is I'm a small shop guy, if I can say it that way. You know, I'm a byproduct of coming from 13 consolidations down south. We were all small shops, volunteers. When we first started, we understand, not like any different than was explained, in the time of emergency, people don't care, but when the emergency is not occurring, they do care, and all that is solved by having the right relationships ahead of time. So I'm hoping that nothing changes for you. I would ask.
So we'll still have folks at Benston and Graham and OK Highway and.
Yep. Yeah, so none of, specific from like a service level standpoint, none of that changes. The only thing that changes is enhancements. So like just specifically for Graham, you know, I know that you're aware that they bought that Station 92 property. We helped them with that. Graham's intention was like to secure that piece of property, likely go out to the community, ask for a bond to be able to build the facility. Now in this combined setting, I actually think that's something we're going to be able to do without going out to the community and asking for additional dollars. I'm hoping that comes true, but I think that's where we're headed. But I only see enhancements. Currently at Station 91, which was just a single engine, a medic, and a battalion chief, already starting January 1st, it's an engine, a truck, a medic, and a battalion chief. Some of the staffing that we've balanced out across the system has allowed us to put more staff in Ording and Graham, while we've also added more staff to Central Pierce. So nothing, if everything goes right, which so far it has, is going backwards. Everything is going forward so that we can manage the growth cycle more responsibly, in my opinion. I'm sure, just like I experienced down there will be something that presents, or you presented to you in Boise. There will be something we haven't picked up on yet that will alter our course, but so far I think we've done an amazing job of assessing the situation and make sure additional services going out, nothing's going away.
Okay.
Yeah, hold me to it. Yeah, and you have my number.
Thank you.
All right, great questions. And I just want to, Alita, you talked about the service isn't going to change anywhere, but will any of the fire stations close or move?
No, so that's a great question. So currently, nothing is closing. So in Central Pierce, we've reopened the Brookdale Fire Station. We're getting ready to reopen 66 in South Hill. We've added an additional company down on the Ording Valley floor. I don't know if you know, but 41's the original fire station for Ording. They had to sell. So we put another company down at 40's currently. We've opened and bolstered 43 with Ording. We have bought back from the city of Puyallup the old Shaw Road Fire Station and the North Puyallup Fire Station. The Shaw Road Fire Station is likely going to open in the third or fourth quarter this year. North Puyallup, we leased to the search and rescue group of the county. We don't think that we're going to be able to put that facility in place for 2 or 3 years, so it made sense. And then our current target is really in 2 locations. One is Kapowson, and the other one's up on Patterson Road out of Ording. So that is our focus to currently add in. Nothing's closing.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, we're going to talk about radios. We start talking about radios. We've been talking about radios a long time.
I think it's passed to me on this subject. Huh?
All right.
Thanks.
All right, Chief.
They're all moving. Yeah. Well, we don't have a fire benefits charge, and we're almost an island, so we're not doing any consolidation. So I get radios. Well.
No, I think you had a meeting a little while ago. You invited me down to. I don't know what the title was. Great discussion there.
Titans of
But
radios.
Titans of radios.
Well, I think at the highest level that one discussion we do need to have, and Director Soleil came to our command staff meeting this morning. We had some good discussion that you need to know about and is facing us right away. There's the high level radio system. We have the 800 and 700, the Tacoma and the Pierce County. But something that's staring us in the face right now is those of us that are on the Pierce County system, the 700 system, which is Gig Harbor and Key Pen and the smaller agencies. Our rates went up 300% last year. And we, as a chiefs, voted, and we didn't pay you that 300%. It came after our budgets were set, and it's coming up again next year. We can't afford these 300% increases because so many departments have left in the 800 system. It's leaving us holding the bag, and you actually need to do something about this. And I don't know what you're going to do, but we can't pay it. And I'm just kind of being frank that this isn't something that a new director can fix. This is at your level. And between you and Tacoma, this radio system needs to get, something has to be done. You're just leaving us as fire chiefs holding this bag, and then also all of us on the 700 system, we can't do 300% increases. We can't. And we didn't pay the bill. What are you going to do? Are you going to have another 300% increase this year? Are you going to make us pay from last year? Because we didn't pay it, and none of us did. So this is at your level. This isn't at her level. She's a brand new director and can't fix this. You're going to have to step in and do something. I don't mean to just throw a bomb there, but I don't know if you know about that. You know, nobody else is on these systems except the smaller fire departments on the fringe. And I asked her, and it's her first week, and she's like, I don't know what to do, but it's at a higher level. So I guess I got a question for you. We didn't pay 300% increase, and it's coming up again in a couple more months. What are we going to do here?
Well, you know, at the committee here, we're not.
I know.
We don't know. You know, I thought we were going to get some information on the radios.
Okay.
What's going on? We talked about having one radio system. You know, and we kind of didn't too much know about that.
Sorry.
That right there today.
Well, you need to know about it. If you didn't know about that, you should know about it.
Well, we definitely didn't know you didn't pay.
We didn't pay. We wrote a letter from the Pierce County Fire Chiefs that said, and we didn't make the payment. We paid what we paid last year, and we did make that payment. So we don't have to have a resolution today, but that it's coming up again in a few more months. So something needs to happen. So, sorry
got a
to throw
question
that
from,
bomb and
Committee
go in a
Member
different
Morrell.
direction, but it does need to be addressed at some time.
Okay, we'll have a question from Committee Member Morrell.
Just for the education of the committee, could you tell us the difference between the 800 and 700 and why one is superior over another and why Motorola is the only one out there? So if you could give us the ABCs, then we'll let Committee Member Denson handle the rest.
Yeah, I'll need some help from my colleagues, but at the end of the day, there's the 800 or the Tacoma system, and there's the 700, which is the county system. And I know way before I'm the new fire chief from a different area. I don't know all the backstory of the hows and whys, but I do know that there's been work to try to bring them together for decades. In my first year here, there was even at South Sound 911 started a program to bring them together, and I don't know if there's been a lot of movement on that. But what has happened is most of the people on this side of the bridge have moved to the 800 system, which has left less users, and so we have user fees that have gone up in the 700 side. You want to rescue me?
Well, I'll just chime in a little bit on that, if you don't mind.
Chief Medford had his hand up for a while there. I think I'll go to him real quick
absolutely.
if he wants to, and then we'll go to you, okay? If you can get, Chief, you on?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Go for it.
I was just going to try and help out Chief Doan, who's doing a fantastic job on that. The 700 system came about after the 800 system was built in the core of Tacoma and the Puyallup area. 800 system is essentially a legacy system, for a lack of a better term, that is independently owned by the city of Tacoma and the city of Puyallup. And that was somewhat of the model of how the 700 came about 2012. And it operated independently from the 700 system, which was Pierce County. And like Chief Doan, I am the only area, as well as South Pierce, that can only access the 700 system. So we had no choice of what system we could use. There's coverages very similar for what we would call the core area of Pierce County, the Chief Sharp and Chief Morrow's area. However, Chief Doan and I are only able to access that 700 system. And as things were happening, there was a migration from the 700 system to an 800 system. And eventually the costs were going up for Chief Doan and I because there was less subscribers. Initially, the 700 system also was a Pierce Transit radio system that they left the system. And again, as you get more users moving off, our costs went up. And at this point, the technologies are still stable, still functioning. However, the equipment is getting old, and we really need to look at being the best stewards of our money to move forward. And instead of having duplicity, look at having something similar. To echo with Chief Doan and the bills, I got a bill for, I think it was 2023, and then a month later I got the bill for 2024, which had easily tripled. So there is some disparity to try and pay all of that in 1 year. We did pay the 2023 rate for 2024, and I still have an outstanding bill, but that is something I think we'll have to address at another time. Does that answer some of the questions of the technology and where we're going, or where we're liking to see?
Yeah, I'm just curious, moving forward. Chief Medford, what District 23, where is that located at?
I'm actually south of South Pierce. My district covers from the Nisqually entrance of Mountaineer National Park up through Alderah Lake to the south end of Eatonville. We also just recently merged with a Lewis County fire district that's just on the south side of the Nisqually River that we've been covering for about 20 years.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious, and there again, go ahead and comment.
Yeah, I just, maybe to pull this all back together as best we can. It's a complex issue. It's technology, right? And it's a long-standing issue that over a decade. So it's very complex to try and do the elevator speech with, but I'm going to try my best. Everything that Matt said and Chief Doan have said is correct in that when South Sound was created with Prop 1, there were 6 different dispatch centers, and we were able to bring all those disparate dispatch centers into one PSAP, and it's sitting over on Pacific there, and it's great. We had 6 different disparate radio systems that didn't work well together, and we got them all the way down to the final 2. And I'm not going to use 700 and 800 because, just so you know, there's no technology difference there. Okay, we have towers that have 700 and 800 equipment integrated side by side. That's really irrelevant. That's just been a common name. Bottom line is Tacoma Puyallup has a system, Pierce County has a system. And we got down to those last 2 systems, and that's where the work stopped. And Tacoma went forward, Pierce County went forward, and it sort of stayed that way. And that is the way that's the system and the environment we've been in now for 12 years. Trying to get to, you hear about trying to get to a single system. The reason being, one is it creates a disparity of cost because of the problems we have with 700 has a lot of infrastructure but not very many users, and so just it's a mathematical problem that their cost per unit is much higher versus 800. It's in the concentrated area of the metro core, so it's high population, a lot of big fire districts, so a lot of users, the costs go down. So there's a cost imbalance that happens between these two, which makes it difficult for me to get the exact same service that Chief Doan does, but he has to pay twice as much or 3 times as much for it. That doesn't seem to make sense for emergency communications. Along with that is the technology problem that it creates because they are still independent systems. They're connected a little bit in sort of a technology way. But the reality is you get into a large district like Dustin's, and there's a point where you lose 800 coverage and you've got to switch to 700 coverage. It's not like your cell phone where you don't know whose network you're using, AT&T, Verizon, whatever. It just, seamlessly roams. You physically have to stop and say, wait a second, I've got to make a physical change on my radio now, and now that I'm on this, I will no longer be able to talk to the people that are 2 miles behind me coming into the call because they're physically on something else on their radio. So there's these breakdowns in communications from a seamless, ability to move throughout this county. And that's where we've talked about that idea of bringing those 2 systems together and bring that infrastructure together. It's a technology need for seamless communication throughout Pierce County for all first responders, but it also has a secondary effect that it brings into balance the funding. So it's a little of both. It's a technology problem, it's a finance problem, but they're all rooted in the same core issue that you have 2 separate and independent radio systems that are being managed, one by City of Tacoma Puyallup and one by Pierce County. I hope that didn't clutter it more, but I think it's important to understand there's sort of a technology side of this and also the money side to this.
So it's quite complex, and
I've paid all my bills.
And it's different in different. Okay, that's good to know.
You won't be leaving.
I can't leave until I pay.
Sorry.
Well, with that, I mean, the radio stuff is really kind of complicated, and so what I'd like to know, so we can have some clarity, because it's different in your area, and your area. In a perfect world, I'd love to hear, just like in a 3-minute summary, how could the council help you when it comes to the radio things? There's no promises here. It's just what we want to hear from you. And I'll just start with you. In a perfect world, how could we focus and collaborate and advocate?
Yeah. There's 2 systems and we need one. And to the highest level, somebody's got to give something up. And the 2 entities aren't willing to. So I don't want to oversimplify it, but somebody has to give the system to the other one, or create a governance over the 2 to create one. That needs to happen. I also believe that we need to start looking to the future. Chief Morrow and I are working on, so that's LMR, land mobile radio is what it's called. We're looking to LTE, digital, and satellite, and I do think there are some ways that we can partner, that the radio systems need to look to the future on LTE and satellite, and I think we'd do it better, faster, and cheaper.
Chief Morrow, Central Pierce.
I generally concur, so I think the first thing is just start over. Like we've spent 24 months kind of having this conversation. I would encourage, at a policy level, just start over. Establish a policy position where we do have a single system. It does not mean that they have to be the same system, but that we're going to have a single system to be able to communicate across this entire county all the way up into Greenwater and beyond. And then the third thing I think that is absolutely essential is for there to be some education around the technology has shifted. And the money that's being contemplated to have a voice-only system is crazy to me, to be honest with you. If we're going to make an investment in a system, it needs to have the full capacity for voice, for data, for everything that emergency services has actually become. And that's where I would start.
Chief Sharp, perfect world.
Yeah, very similar. I would say the stakeholders have to come together, and that's City of Tacoma, City of Puyallup, Pierce County. And I would add South Sound 911 in there because they have a financial ability to be a participant in this, and they certainly have all the stakeholders involved when it comes to police and fire. But stakeholders need to come together, develop a strategy to have a single unified system throughout this county that leverages, all the current and sets up for future technology enhancements.
Thank you. Chief Medford, you have the floor.
Well, thank you. Again, I would echo my compatriots. We do need a single system. I went to assist a fire down in West Pierce a couple years ago when they had a couple of large fires down by the college. I couldn't listen to what was going on my response until I got within 20 minutes away, when I could have been listening the entire time going into that response. So the fact that we're not being able to communicate across the county on a simple system is troubling. I've had other experiences when I worked for the Park Service when my coworker was shot on duty. That, again, was a multi-agency response that was compounded. Having seen that, it's imperative that we move towards a single system, not just for law, not just for fire, but for everybody.
Thank you. Okay, so really appreciate that perspective. And Ms. Gruver had a question along.
Well, he's a member.
Okay, Committee Member Morrell, go ahead. You're up.
My question is does law enforcement operate on the same system, like the Sheriff's Department, police? Do they have one system that they operate on?
Same scenario, law and fire.
So it's the same. So it's not only the fire department, it's law enforcement too that have a dog in this fight. So, and I think there again, some of my colleagues will acknowledge the fact that we did relinquish a large portion of our funding back to South Sound 911, hopefully to solve this issue. So that was several years ago, and we're still at square one, it sounds like. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, we're getting down to it. So, Committee Member Denson.
Well, I will defend South Sound 911 a bit here. Their number one priority with certain funds has been the single system, and we did a resolution last year to that effect as well. I don't want to rehash the past. That doesn't matter at this point. We have a new, soon-to-be, Director of Emergency Management. We've got law and fire, all of which have been very excited about coming together on a single system. We've got new technology that is not only promising in terms of effectiveness, but affordability. It's way less expensive. I mean, the meeting we had just a couple weeks ago down at Central Pierce was really, really exciting, and I'm extremely optimistic that we are going to get there. South Sound 911 has been holding money aside for a single system, or whatever we call it, and the interim director of South Sound 911 was at that meeting as well, and we're starting at South Sound 911 to talk budgets. So I think we've got partners that really want to work together. We're all tired of this discussion, and the public deserves better. We can do a better job with public safety. We can keep people safer. We can keep our first responders, law and fire, safer and better able to do their jobs. So I think you're going to see some movement. I think we've got the right people now that are working together. So hopefully that helps.
There. Thank you for that comment. Councilmember Kruger, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. But I'll start with saying that I just recall years ago when these things were coming up, and I couldn't understand how we were doing this system when we didn't have things working, where the past can tell us in the future we shouldn't have done something before we had the technology to do it. But now that we have that hindsight, I'm wondering, is there a number that has been put together that we can look forward to that represents that 300% increase?
I don't understand the question. The county charged us 300% increase, and I don't.
Well, you said that you couldn't pay the bill.
Yeah, we didn't.
So that's outstanding. And what is there a number can tell us what kind of outstanding bills are out there because of this system?
How much do you owe?
Oh, how much do I owe?
At girl speak,
I can't. I'll work on that.
I'm just curious. I'm assuming there's more systems than just, because I know with South Pierce, they've had those receivers in the closet for years and still getting charged, and I don't know what is the balance due on that. I'm just wondering what the collective amount might be.
By way of reference, I can share with you the ordering bill that we paid was about $75,000, $78,000, which did represent the increase. That bill used to be down in the 20s.
Wow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Kelly, did you have any clarifying questions now that we have the Titans here? They gave us some good information and stuff. No? We're good? Okay. All right. I think that's about it. I mean, if you had anything else, we have a few more minutes.
I just want to comment really quickly
Yes, sir.
About fire prevention. So first off, this county does an amazing job in the fire prevention space. Most recently, they've approached us around aligning around burning and burn banning, which is very complicated, believe it or not, and we don't have a lot of authority. So we appreciate the relationship we have with the county. At some point, once we get through radio, let's just make that a plan first. It would be wonderful to sit down in a similar fashion and have a conversation about how, not unlike EMS, we're all funding and sponsoring prevention staff and prevention measures. And each one of us, if you work in a municipality or not, are doing some form of plans review, maybe not. If we're in unincorporated county, we have these capabilities. If we're in the city of Puyallup or Orting, we have these capabilities. It would be fantastic, next year or the year beyond, to really sit down and have a conversation about how do we take the collective prevention resources, the education resources, the enforcement resources, and do it better than what we're doing today. And just by way of example, it's difficult. I'll just speak for my own organization. I have cause and origin staff 24 hours a day, but in certain parts of my service area, I have to wait 2-3 hours to get an investigator, right? Or, we want to say something different about the way that we're enforcing the code, but can't, right? So no complaint. Another opportunity where, working together, we could be much more effective for the community and actually, I think, be safer in the community and prevent some of that life loss and some of that property damage that occurs. Something down the road for you to think about.
Okay. All right. Committee Member Hitchen has a comment.
Thank you, Chair. I guess it's more, Chief Morrow, I really like that idea. And looking at 2026, wondering if that's something our performance audit team could be engaged in. They're very good at bringing stakeholders together. We did a really good overview of our domestic violence prevention services, which pulled stakeholders, community, law enforcement to the table to really map and look at how our services work and where they don't. Wondering if maybe that's a tool that we have and we have funding to run those types of services. It would give Ms. Soley a little bit of time to get her feet wet or keep them dry, I guess maybe probably what she wants to do in DEM, but to be able to see where we are, but look at 2026 and really utilize some of the county tools to help you think about how we do that. So
we just, can I respond? We would love that when, if I can say it through my words, when you use one of your, pathways, one of your processes, and you provide the leadership and bring us to the table, that's what we need. So, in some of the early meetings that we had with the new executive, criticism is the wrong word, some constructive feedback that there's 19 fire agencies in this county. Is that right still? 17, 19?
I don't know. Less after last Tuesday, but.
And
more than 15.
Okay, more than 15. We all have resources, and we're not necessarily all using them the best together. So whether it be fire prevention, there is a conversation in this county to be had about EMS. There is for sure a radio conversation, DEM you're already engaged in. But when you provide the pathway, the process, and the leadership, some amazing things can happen in this county.
Okay, we'll put a pin in it and see what we can do. But appreciate the thought process, and Ms. Kelly and our performance audit team can start noodling that around and bring it back to performance audit and see if that's the pathway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great idea. All right. Okay, that brings us to the end. We made it in time, so that's on time, on target. That's great. So I appreciate you coming out today in person and before us, before the committee. Really important stuff. Good to see you guys. So
yeah, appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do we have anything else, Ms. Kelly, before we adjourn?
No other business outside of your next agenda is still a bit to be determined, but I believe we're going to have an update on the Pathways to Progress. Previously, the pretrial pathways program running out of district court, and potentially a presentation regarding intensive use of mental health.
Okay. All right. That's great. All right. If that's it, then we will adjourn the special meeting of the Pierce County Council Public Safety Committee.
Does the county have a T-shirt making department? Because we'd like tight.